If there's one song that's as requested as my favorite piece, it would be Merry Christmas, Jameson's Irish Whiskey. And I don't know exactly what initially inspired that, but there's a long tradition of irreverent Christmas songs and movies. And I remember there's a Steve Martin bit that he did over top of Silver Bells, which I think it was Paul Simon and Billy Joel were singing Silver Bells in the background, and Steve Martin had this highly irreverent talk over top of it, which I thought was just uproariously funny. And I think that probably influenced it as much as anything. But you know, I mean, everyone knows what it is to be around family at the holidays, and as enriching an experience as that can be, you know, it can also be somewhat taxing, and I'm not speaking specifically about my own family in the song, and it was important to me that my family knew that this isn't about you necessarily. This is trying to capture feelings that people have during the holidays that they don't necessarily talk about openly. But I wanted to approach it in a playful way, and I don't think there's anything too heavy in that song. But people like to drink during the holidays. People like to drink more than they do at any other time, and it's funny. I was not particularly enamored with Jameson Irish whiskey specifically. I like it, but I chose it because it was something. It wasn't obvious. Like if I picked Jack Daniels or something like that, but it's something fairly common to people that would just essentially represent alcohol during the holidays. But that song is a lot of fun to play because there are things that I say in that song that I wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable just joking about outside the context of the song. Things that would maybe be a little bit scandalous to say publicly otherwise. But again, you're protected by the song. You're protected inside the song. And if you do it in a show, and I've played that song for all kinds of different audiences. I've played that for everything from little old ladies to kids. And to my knowledge, nobody has seemed offended by it. I think people tend to relate to it. I haven't played it to an audience of kids, I should say that specifically, but certainly there have been kids around when I've sung it. It's just a lot of fun.
I consider it to be a song that everybody gets.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I've said that. I've played that for, like I say, I played that for, groups that I would not necessarily have known what the reaction was going to be to it. People who, I wouldn't be comfortable just, telling a blue joke to. But, after I played the song, they came up to me and said, "That's just like my family." The truth is that song is not just like my family. I think once my family knew that this is not about us. This is about all of us. Then there was no feeling that there was anything to be hurt by in it. I'm not, the characters in the song are not, they're not specific characters in my own family. They're just, the characters that I imagine that people have in their families, and I suppose they're, they could be amalgamations of people I've known, but they're not consciously so. I kind of imagine that song as sort of almost a sing-along kind of song. It didn't go down on the record that way. I sort of stuck with the sort of parlor style performance, how I'd been doing it for years, because that song was written back in 2007, and I've played it every Christmas since. and it's just always just me and the piano. So in my mind, when I get into the last chorus, I'm hearing all the family singing along, which at this point they do. So there was some question when this did go down on the record. I did consider having a chorus of people, but I thought I'm just going to release this as everyone has heard it over the years, and particularly as they heard it for the first time, because there are things in that song that aren't near as shocking the third or fourth time you hear them, but the first time, I think people don't see them coming. Certainly in the context of a Christmas song. I don't think there's anything truly shocking in that song when it comes right down to it, but it's the context that makes it so, I think. You set it up with, here's the Christmas song, and then you start talking about incest and oral sex and heavy drinking,
And Uncle Eddie.
And Uncle Eddie, yeah. Uncle Eddie is almost, he's almost archetypal, really. I mean,
Everybody has an Uncle Eddie.
Sure. Yeah, everyone has an Uncle Eddie. And it seems to me that in the great tradition of irreverent Christmas songs and movies, the uncle character is fairly important. The heavy drinking, probably a little lecherous. It seemed that character was obvious. In the original version of that song, which did undergo a little bit of editing early on, Uncle Eddie had a larger role. But I just he's
had a more salacious role, I
a little bit more so, yeah. But he did become just relegated to pissing on the tree, as it were, which is probably best.
That's still an important role.
Oh, I think so. Yeah. No, it somebody has to keep that thing hydrated.
Well, all who know me will be shocked to know that I wrote a Christmas song. But if you're waiting for the joyous fa-la-la-la-las, I'm afraid you got me wrong. 'Cause the family's all arriving and the cars are pulling up the drive. And with that many relatives in one place, I might not make it out alive. All the grown-ups are gathered round a circle with their spirits and passive-aggressive smiles. Every mother going on about the genius of her precious little favorite golden child. And all these kids should be dreaming of sugar plums all nestled up in bed. But they're wide awake, and far as I can tell, they all seem a little bit inbred. And before you know it, all the eggnog glasses start flying through the air. And someone's yanking someone else's ugly white trash hair. When spending time with the family gets too risky, Merry Christmas, Jameson's Irish whiskey. Well, I'd love to just go up to sleep, but there are coats piled on my bed. And in the spare room, my sister and our cousin are giving one another head. And if I have to hear another lame-ass version of Silent Fucking Night, I might just take 100 sleeping pills and walk toward the light. But the evening ends and there's a chance to sit and enjoy the Christmas cheer. Because it's really not that often that we get to have everybody here. And there's a stirring in the darkness, is that Santa Claus I see? No, it's just Uncle Eddie. He's drunker than hell and he's pissing on the tree. And before you know it, all the eggnog glasses start flying through the air. And someone's yanking someone else's ugly white trash hair.